Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So we will have our QESS workshop today. I'm glad we have already invited Dr. Chen. He is the assistant professor at the geography department in Chinese University. So he will share with us with the using of virtual reality in teaching and learning. Okay, so he will demonstrate to us and share his experience for us how to enhance student learning motivation by using VR and AR. So without further ado, I introduce Dr. Chen to you guys. Okay, I just let Dr. Chen to share with us.
Yeah, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Kim, for your generous introduction, and also Dr. Paula Hobson referred me to Kim so that we have this event this afternoon. And thanks a lot for having me here. Um, actually, I'm from the Faculty of Social Science in CHK, and I'm not from the Faculty of Education, nor working or specialized in areas like pedagogy, that kind of thing. But I think in the past several years, I have tried to develop a few virtual platforms for enhancing my teaching. And also, yeah, because of the academic, we had to adapt a lot to different kinds of changing teaching learning process in the past years. So that's why I have accumulated a few examples that I'm happy to share with all of you this afternoon. I set the topic of today's workshop as an experience sharing because I think at least maybe some of you have had already developed something in your mind, or even have realized those ideas into kind of hardware or part of your teaching. Therefore, I think an experience sharing as well as idea exchange will be much more relevant and more practical for us to be more fruitful in this afternoon. Okay, so I have divided my presentation today into four parts. First of all, I will give some background information of why we need virtual technology in teaching and learning. And then second part, I have included four examples of my previous selected projects. And in this part, I will try to tell you some stories about my idea as well as the development process, the content of each of those projects, concisely, as well as some opportunities and challenges that I have encountered. So I think that would be something that I would like to share and then learn from each other. And the next part will be a platform experiences. Although we are, maybe we have a hybrid mode today, so we have audience in the room, and we also have participants online. So in this very complicated kind of situation, so we have to try to divide those platform experiences into uh, either the in class or in room kind of experience that I also prepared an Oculus device for you to have a short experience of one of the platforms that I developed. And also for the online guests, you are also you can also experience the online one because I'm going to share those QR codes with all of you so that you can also use and try those platforms by yourself. And lastly, will be a short concluding remarks and some reflection, followed by maybe an open discussion together. Okay, so I think um, looking at the production of different virtual experiences is not something uncommon in Hong Kong nowadays. Even with the because I come from my specialized area as sustainable tourism development, so I quote some of the examples from the tourism context. Hong Kong Tourism Board does share a lot of different virtual experiences to the guests and also overseas audiences, over the past years, especially when we are looking for a more footloose kind of visiting experiences across different parts of the world. And we have already seen also a lot of visualized public attractions in Hong Kong. That is, they put their environments, their sites, or their attractions online so as to favor a lot of different people who may have accessibility concern, or they may want to like have a taste of what those attractions look like. And those scales and formats of such kind of visualization of sites depends on site characteristics, whether it is large or small, available resources, whether those places they do have financial support, or they may just have some in-house team to work on some virtual platform. The concern of privacy may also be something that we usually or easily ignored when we are producing, 360 or these kinds of virtual reality platforms. And also, technical issues are a big challenge to all of us because towards the end, you will know that how difficult I have to encounter, the complication of teaching mode adaptation, as well as some kind of technical obstacles when I try to, put some really outdoor environment into a small, tiny piece of a device, or allow students to, experience those platforms in class as well as in their homes when we are having the online teaching. Yeah, just a few examples of what we have seen in Hong Kong about how some of the governmental units have tried to preserve some heritage in Hong Kong, and this one I think many of you familiarized about the Bishop Hill, the Some Triple Surface Reservoir case. I'm not going into heritage conservation, but this is an example clearly showing that they developed, uh, a virtual kind of tour as well as platform, in a very short period of time. After this place has been, put onto the media as well as, being changed to be some heritage that is very valuable for conservation. So there are lots of different kinds of these similar kinds of virtual platform that we may learn from or we may experience online. Um, some of them is actually like this one is actually a small scale one, but it includes a lot of different kinds of information, linking to some other websites or reference materials, etc. But we also see some other places like the Longping 360 area, Longping area, as well as Big Buddha. This is a large, outdoor area where they have selected a few spots, from a really large space, and try to mainly focus on the visual scape of the places rather than being informative like the reservoir case. And in this case, we have seen that they have just put, together several 360 degree images online to, combine them into a virtual reality platform. But they also, because this is a very popular tourist attraction in Hong Kong, so it's very hard for them to really find a place, find a time where it is totally empty or without any people. So they also on those virtual images they also have people on there, just like Google images, Google Earth. And some local organizations they also offer public virtual tours, like some of these examples online, and they have put together a lot of different elements to attract the participants, as well as to give the participants a very fruitful experience by including, for example, new real-time guided tour together with the virtual experiences at the same time. And much of these kinds of virtual tours depend very much on the role of moderators as well as the interpretation functions. Otherwise, if they just have a virtual experiences without any further interpretation, it will be very hard for the participants to really know about that place, in a short, experience like that. Okay, so coming to the academic perspective, we have seen an increasing needs for virtual teaching and learning process. This is perhaps due to quite a number of different factors or reasons in the recent decades. Because I'm from geography and also tourism education, so maybe it will be quite different between your own disciplines of teaching, but field trips are the major components of geography and tourism education. In our department, we have more than 20 faculty members who are specialized in different area of geography and natural resource management. Therefore, we have our own sites and places to bring the students to those field trips. However, even before the pandemic, we have seen a lot of and experienced a lot of different constraints about bringing students to outside. Apart from just the administration efforts and also the money and expenses, we are also facing time, travel, weather, and some other resource constraints as well. Especially for some courses, like in our program of tourism um, education, we have a lot of different sub areas. For example, looking into ecotourism, nature-based tourism, cultural and heritage, as well as urban development. We have a lot of different places for our students to go, and each time we have to select maybe one or two, in each course, and we may have to give up some of the places that are also interesting, but they may not be able to be included in the syllabus of a particular course. And for number three, suspension of in-class lecturing and outdoor activities caused by the epidemics. I think is the biggest challenge for all of us in the past few years. Especially we cannot kind of manage very well how the students are with us, on Zoom. They are just, outside the universe or so, and then we had to, facing back black screens, and then we teach them, and then we really don't know how they feel, or actually, hard to have interaction with them. And therefore, we had, in CHK, we have some kind of teaching grants that are available for faculty members in different disciplines or faculties to apply, and then to see how we can enhance the experience of both instructors as well as the students during this difficult time. And some of these grants are particularly focused on how to utilize virtual technology in teaching and learning. So there are a few of these smaller teaching grants specifically for us to develop some courseware or a virtual platform just for teaching purpose. And a few of my previous experience are also based on this kind of small teaching grant. Number four is we also see the importance and growing importance of teaching collaborations between courses and also institutions. Some of the grants that or the projects that I have been doing, I also treasure very much, inter-university or cross-university or institutions kind of cooperation, because if we can kind of having this kind of cooperation in developing some projects or developing some virtual tools or platforms that may be applicable to more than one course, and that could actually benefit more than one class because we can form synergetic, kind of development. And lastly, we also see the needs for incorporating on-site field experience and off-site activities and assessment, because very often in geography, especially the physical geography part, we kind of have to organize field trips that may last for more than 2 hours for the students to go outside, like on an outlying island or in countrysides in Hong Kong. Then they have already spent a lot of time, much time in going traveling to those places, and then they also have to do their own field work, maybe some even for field measurements as well. And then they have to follow some pre-designed guidelines by the instructors, and then ask the students to do something maybe individually or in groups on site, and then they have to spend time, maybe hours to do a lot of things, and then it's very hard for instructors or teachers to conduct a very comprehensive kind of field experiences on site, especially with a very large class size. That would also have cost implication as well. So we tend to incorporate some selected on-site field trip for our students, and as well as adding sometimes if some places, some sites are suitable to be put on a virtual kind of experiences, we will tend to also try to add one or two more self-paced field trip, for the students to do some work in addition to the physical field work that they have to do. So we see more interactive and sustainable field trip virtually, for in the past years. It's also important for transforming such teaching learning crisis into some kind of opportunities for education. Um, I think for those who are familiar with virtual technology, then I don't have to explain. But if you have some ideas and planning to do something new, or putting together some of your ideas, maybe into a proposal or into a kind of project initiative, then maybe you have to look into what kind of approaches, especially in terms of virtual technology, that we may apply. Um, Generally speaking, we have virtual reality, augmented reality, and merged or mixed reality. These three types of virtual experiences. Very brief. For a virtual reality, we are looking at a completely digital environment that is, like what we are, going to trying to do today, as well as in some classes where students they don't have to step out of their classroom, but they can, or even during the pandemic, they actually can stay at home and then they use the laptop, their tablet, etc., to experience a particular site's platform, and that is actually totally detached from the physical environment, of the place. The second type, augmented reality, is a kind of real world with digital information overlay, and this we are basically still looking at on-site experiences. That may be now the pandemic is over. If we are going to like restore, no, we resume many of our kind of physical sites, field trips, or experiences with the students, then perhaps AR would be a good way for putting some of the contents that you would like to enhance in a mobile app, or a mobile platform, so that the students can actually use their mobile device or smart devices, and then at particular sites they can use the designed like of mobile apps to scan some objects on site, and then to get some more additional information, or even some of the AR tools can actually do a lot of things like video watching, or they can actually do some exercise or quiz, short quiz when they are visiting places physically. And the last one, I think, is the most complicated one. But indeed, my friends who has been working together with me in some of these projects have had told me that MR, merged reality, or we call them mixed reality, is something that is not so complicated because it is just looking at the real and the virtual worlds intertwined. That is, we can well, whenever there is a kind of combination of the physical environments of the site and the virtual environments online, then we can kind of core or categorize those kinds of types of virtual experience as an MR. Maybe in the elaboration of my examples, you will know more about how this would actually work. Okay, so the second part will be for, I just want to check that the workshop will end at before 4 o'clock, right? Yeah, I just don't want to mess up, my time management. Um, I am going to share with you 4 examples of my projects um, in the past several years. The first example is an example of virtual reality projects, which engaged, not engaged, which includes an active learning through an immersive, virtual reality environment. I'm not the project leader of this one because I think Dr. Paula Hobson was, and also my colleagues in the department, they led this project, I think, in about 2017 to 2016 to 18, around those period. And they invited a few colleagues in CHK from different faculties. And I think there's a faculty of public health, and also myself, and another two teachers in CHK. We were the user, okay, of this project. So each of us uh, was responsible for developing one particular virtual platform for that project. So, and then thanks for Paula, because that was actually my first time of having this kinds of teaching platform development in terms of VR, experience. And I chose Lychee Wall as the site of the investigation in this project. And I think if you know about Lychee Wall, I'm not going to, tell you in detail about what Lychee Wall is actually, having, where it is, etc. But it is a Hakka village in the north west of New Territories, and I think it's also becoming more and more popular nowadays for for rural revitalization, as well as I think a lot of efforts has been put to restore its Hakka village scape, as well as the agricultural production in that Hakka village area. So for Lychee Wall, we usually take this case to our students as to teach a case study about community revitalization, as well um, looking at the cultural heritage of Hakka culture in Hong Kong. So in this place, Lychee Wall Village, it includes Hakka Village, history and culture, as well as some natural features around those landscapes, like such as Feng Shui Forest or the mangrove vegetation species towards the coastal area of the place. And Lychee Wall is one of the common um, sites for field trips in our department, depending on which course you are teaching or the teacher is teaching. But this place now basically you can go to there by either on foot by hiking for 2 hours. Um, for return trip that is 4 hours, or you take a ferry from Ma Liu Shui. and then it will take you there for one single trip is about 1.5 hours. So time, travel, weather constraints, these are the rationale behind that I would like to pick this place as my first projects involving virtual experiences. So the development process of this project is like this. The aim is to provide a virtual field experience to users, students, and what are the key features in this project? We have taken 360-degree VR photos of selected locations of Lychee Wall, and then we add location map. We add some photos and also links to some other online resources like websites, etc. And we also capture the sound of the places. And the main process involved VR filming. Of course, we took, I think, a whole day to go to all these places and use the 360 camera to take photos in each spot. And to play safe, we had to take maybe 2 or 3 times in the same spot in order not to, miss some of the places or, having not so clear images. And going to Lychee Walk is also time consuming. So we hope to do it in one go um, for capturing the image. We also need to collect different kinds of information about the place. For example, we have to take photos of different features there. And then finally, of course, we hire outsourcing vendor to help us to build the platform and then to test the platform repeatedly, rounds and rounds by the team players, myself, and some students, student helpers. Yeah, so this is to acknowledge that eventually the project, has been completed successfully, and Polar had, put forward some of the outcomes of the projects in an academic conference. Just to quickly showing you, about how the students perceived this VR trail. We basically asked us, a list of Likert scale questions or statements and allow the students to rate, their experiences. And it's a 7-point Likert scale. So you can see most of the items were performing quite good. About between 5 and 6 between the score of 5 and 6. And basically, the students appreciate that the VR platform would allow them to visualize the site in a good quality. And some questions are related to how they kind of linking their experience of this virtual field trip or virtual experience in Lychee Wall with their learning experience in the university, as well as some courses that they took in their university life. Um, yeah. Okay. So um, the final slide about this example is some opportunities and challenges that I experienced in this projects. Um, First, the opportunities. We also found that the offsite self-paced field experience by the users was useful because at that time I included this virtual field trip in one of my general education courses, and then and therefore I could pick another place that is relatively more accessible and also interesting for the students to do their physical field trip. But at the same time, I included maybe half of a lecture or one session for my class to do this virtual field trip. So which as a kind of additional experience for the students. Another one is in immersive experience through visual audio combination. Because for this platform, I captured the sound of Lychee Wall, at the time of the VR filming. So when the students they access to this platform, if they have a earphone, they can actually listen, to the sound environments of the place at the same time. So the experience was more immersive than just looking at the visual part of the screen of during their the use of the platform. And the final opportunity item is about the flexibility of changing teaching content by the instructor. Because I have this platform which is publicly accessible online. When you have internet connection, then we actually can go there to to browse different places. So I only included elements like photos, some brief information about the features available in Lichiwo, as well as some, connecting to some online other, websites or some references. So I have more flexibility of designing my, like teaching content, or maybe if I want to do a virtual field trip for the students particularly, then I will actually design like a guideline for the students to follow. Whenever they have access to that platform, they can follow the guidelines and do some work or exercise, or some, even group discussions together with the students in class, in a more flexible way. I can change, between different themes of learning, or different objectives, across different semesters, or teaching years. But there are also two challenges here. One is a limited function, because I think at that time, for this Lychee War virtual platform, there's only just very basic kind of orientation or access, to different sites on the platform. They can click on the image to look at the photos. They can click into those websites to look for further information. But that is all for that platform. And I think one key challenge is that the site conditions, have been changing quite a lot in these years, especially when like Hong Kong U or HSBC, they have that Lychee War sustainability program over the years. So they have built up new story rooms by the government. They have restored some of the village houses in the village. So that, those kinds of actions actually made this site made the platform having outdated site conditions. So this is a very difficult thing to consider, and a really big problem to solve. Very quickly, this is the first version 2.0. Well, this is just an very recent, again, collaboration led by my colleagues in the department of GRM. We also had another virtual course, teaching collaboration with another university from Thailand, the Chulalongkorn University. So we had a teaching of a group of our Hong Kong students in our department, and then another group of students from Thailand, and then a group of 8 faculty members from both universities. We developed 2 virtual platforms, one in Hong Kong with 4 key themes, 4 key sites, and another one in Thailand. They also have 4 sites and 4 themes. So this one I kind of use Lychee War again as the sites of this field trip, and the recent project actually enhanced a lot in terms of the functions that are available. Apart from more, a more beautiful and higher resolution kind of VR image, and we have also enhanced it. For example, adding the direction and locations of checkpoints of different places in Lychee War. We can click into the icon to see photos on site. And also, I think this is quite innovative, because maybe for architecture, schools, colleagues may be interested in, as the service provider also produced the 3D models of key features on site for us, which are the 2 buildings, main 2 constructions in in Lychee Wall for this platform. And then in those 3D models, the students and users can play around and look at the shape of the construction, and then they can also access to some other information about this feature by themselves. So and then because this platform was designed to accommodate the needs of collaboration between Hong Kong and Thailand, so we have co-developed a kind of guidelines for the students to follow, which includes some kind of multiple choice questions about the sites, as well as some open questions that we require the students to do some group discussion in the course. So therefore, we want to provide them with more information or resources in order to achieve these aims. And we added, for example, short interview scripts, in a few of these spots in Lychee Wall, as well as we add aerial photo, which is really attractive, as we have drone flying and then taking aerial view, as well as incorporating the 360 ground view of the place. Yeah. Okay. The second example that I would like to share is another one that is about augmented or mixed reality. For this one, it is no more about Lychee Wall, but I chose another place, Yim Tien Chai, in Saigon, which is also another popular field trip destinations in our department to look at cultural heritage conservation and some community-based tourism as well. So for this one, just a quick geographical information, like Lychee Wall in Saigon, and if we go there, it is relatively speaking more accessible than Lychee Wall. For Yimtianji, we only need to take about 15 to 20 minutes of Guido small ferry from the Saigon Public Pier. So very quickly, Yim Tien Chai means salt agricultural field, but together they means the salt pans. Yeah, and which is the unique feature of Yim Tien Chai. And then for Chai, it actually refers to the village environments and to remind the villagers not to forget their hometown. So a lot of different features are available on Yim Tien Chai, and Yim Tien Chai is also becoming more and more popular in Hong Kong nowadays, because not just because of its unique kind of combinations of resources, but because the government is also promoting Yim Tien Chai in terms of promoting it as part of the geopark in Hong Kong, as well as organizing the arts festivals over the past years. And they are actually doing a Saigon Hoi Arts Festival in the recent years. So highlights of this place is we want to look at it as a case of community revitalization, community-based tourism. And the features I have already mentioned about that is Hakka village salt production, as well as its religious characteristics, because the whole village, their villagers are Catholics. And for this place, although it is more accessible, but travel and weather constraints, they are the challenges for bringing students there. For this project, it is not a VR environment, which is the next one. But for this project, we are doing a small scale kind of augmented reality experience. And for this one, we have developed a mobile app, which allows users or students to download the app, and then when they have my original plan was to have some objects on Yim Tien Chai Island to be scanned and then to put into the mobile app. And when the students had the chance to go to Yimtin Chai, they can find those objects, and then they can use the mobile app to scan the objects and get some information on their mobile phone, maybe connecting to some of the exercise that I would like the students to do. But at that time, I think it's because of a lot of the situation in Hong Kong in 2019, as well as the early stage of the pandemic. So the island at that time was closed. So our team had to do some contingency action. So instead of going to scan objects on the island, we produced it a pamphlet or a small booklet. Yeah, such as these. You can pass it around. Yes, and the pamphlet is also downloadable together with the app on the same page. And for this one, when you download the mobile app, you can scan on the images on the booklet. And when you scan it, you can actually see on your mobile phone or your smart device, there could be, there are videos immediately that you can watch, as well as a 3D model of the St. Joseph Chapel there, as well as the 3D layout of the salt pans on the island. Yeah, and also videos that are, embedded. But these videos are publicly, accessible because they are the YouTube video that are relevant to Yim Tin Chai, different features and characteristics of Yim Tin Chai. Although this project was relatively small, but I think we also wanted to enhance the view experience of the user. Especially even for this one, we can distribute the booklets to the students, and also ask the students to download the mobile app maybe before a field trip to Yim Tin Chai. The main development process of this project is, of course, some technical things that are related to the app development, and we also have to do some object theming and 3D model construction. Which was also time consuming, and information collection, booklet design, as well as platform building and testings. They are also the important steps of the development process of this app. Again, there were also some opportunities based on this project. That is, we could flexibly use this kind of mobile apps to enhance the virtual experience of users or visitors on the island. And we can also add more information online or resources that are embedded into the mobile app through the app development process. But we also experienced quite a number of challenges in this project because first there was the limited scope of the site features. We cannot include too many things in the mobile apps because of the time and resource constraints, as well as some technical issues. The complicated process of mobile app development and use was also a problem at that time because we on and off had to scan some places again on the island, and when we also need to adjust a lot of errors to correct the errors, as well as making the app more user friendly, etc. Again, outdated online source of information because there were about 3 or 4 videos embedded, in this mobile app, but those sources are public resources. So whenever the YouTube link or the video was taken away online, then that function of that page might be, it's just gone. Lastly, originally we thought that we can do some object scanning on site, but because of the problem that I mentioned earlier, we had to make it as the scanning of the booklet page. So this would be an arguably AR or actually an MR kind of projects. For this one, it is the project or the AR app um, was still welcomed by the student generally, but not as good as the previous one, about Lychee War. Probably, I think it is not just because of the AR app itself, but it may also due to the teaching environments as well as the time when we conducted this survey at that time. Yeah, because we had to change everything online, and therefore we put forward this AR tool incorporated into the teaching content immediately, so the students might feel that it's kind of changing so suddenly, or it's hard to just connect themselves with the place on the island. Um, Example three is also about Yim Tin Chai. For this one, it is a mixed reality experience, and this platform this time we adopted game-based learning. So for this one, it is actually quite similar to what we did in Lychee War, but this time we make it on Yim Tin Chai. And this one is this project aims to enhance on-site and off-site field experience of the users. And the key features, again, we also have a mobile app. We also make it as a virtual reality platform, and we also put some game elements in this platform. So the main process is that we developed the VR platform of Yimkin Chai similarly, to what we did for Lychee Wall. And then we develop an app. And for that app, we also add some kind of object, scanning function like what we did in AR. But this time we really went to Lychee Wall and then we identify about 10 spots, and then we try to take the image of those items or objects, and then we developed those objects into and part of or embedded them into the mobile app, and therefore we have to do objects theming. And again, for this time, the function of scanning those objects is not to get information from those objects, but this time we put question and answer like multiple choice questions or some a few open end questions. So when the students they go to Yimtin Chai, they can open the app and follow the instruction of the app. They could find out those 10 objects on the island by themselves. And when they found those items or objects, they scan the object, and then the question will pop up. And then they can try to answer the questions based on what they have learned, what they have experienced, what they have, got, during their field experience. So we have put game design into this development process as well. Let me also supplement one thing, because this one, although we have the mobile app version, but we also try to make it as a virtual reality platform. That is, we also put those game elements, the objects, virtually on online on the virtual platform. So when the students they browse the platform, maybe at home or during their class time, etc., they can also use the cursor to identify the 10 objects from different locations on the Yimtin Chai VR platform. For this one, well, I think they were happy about how this kind of learning could, improve their, visualizations of the site, because if they were visiting Yimtin Chai, perhaps they may not actually go to everywhere on the island. But this time we include more than 40 spots of Yimtin Chai on Yimtin Chai, so the students could actually have more accessibility to different places. Even they didn't want to actually hike on the hillside or to the twin pavilion, they can go there virtually using this platform. And they were kind of generally happy about how this platform has enhanced their understanding about the history, culture, religious, and ecological information of the sites. Um, and then generally speaking, I think at that time it's about 2020 to 2021. I think most of the students they kind of have already got used to online teaching or using this kind of virtual learning, for some time. So they had kind of adapted to this kind of learning mode. But I also found that there is one probable threat of these kinds of platform or learning processes that the students might not have very high or strong interest in going physically to the place after they had experienced the place virtually, because the scores about whether or not they want to go to the place on their own time or they want to find out more information, um, the scores were relatively low in that sense. So I had an observation that the students might be kind of being spoon fed when we have designed everything for them, rather than allowing them to physically explore the place by themselves. So for the opportunities and challenges of this platform is that for the opportunities, um, this one we have enhanced the experience by incorporating both the VR as well as some kind of AR elements into the platform. And we also add game-based learning to stimulate the learning interest and enrich the students' knowledge. And this one again, because like the guideline of the field trip was not actually be embedded was not embedded in the platform. So therefore, we can still having some degree of flexibility to change the content or change the guideline by the instructor. But the challenges were huge, especially in terms of developing the MR game mobile app, because we found it extremely difficult to scan the real object in the environment, especially in the outdoor environment, because of the changing lighting, changing environments, all a lot of different predictable and uncontrollable, or unpredictable or controllable kind of elements would affect the accuracy of the scanning. So sometimes the app would be able to scan the object and pop up the questions, but sometimes it will not. And it's a very complicated process of mobile app development again, even more difficult than the one that I in the previous projects. Okay, so I think the last project that I would like to introduce to you is another one that is um, kind of focused on game-based learning. For this one, I picked up sustainable development goals as the theme. And this one is basically kind of mixed reality experience. No, it should be VR actually. Anyway, this one is called a Sustainable Tourism Challenge. A game for a mission game for the students to play with. The highlights of this project is that we have a different, touristic or some non-touristic places that may be commonly mentioned as examples during our teaching in different courses, and those would be, connected with interesting social, cultural, historical, et cetera, the contents of teaching. So um, we want to put these, the long list of the examples that we may we may be mentioned in our teaching into one particular game for the students to go to more than just one or two places in a few experience. And again, because there are many places that they locate in different parts of the territory in Hong Kong. So travel constraint is a basic problem that we have to solve. And therefore, this mission game or sustainable tourism challenge mission game is actually allowing the students can allow them to go to different places to have a glance of what are available in those places, just to capture an idea as well as an impression of those places. You can see there are 14 different locations that are included in this mission game. Some of them are very much common among us, like Tai O, number 10. Some are, touristic places, like number 3, Temple Street. But some places, they are not so much common among students, or even not really a very new place, not just for the local people, but also the non-local students as well. So in this project, I have collected 14 places, and in each of the places, I have included about 1 to 7 VR images. And then I also capture photos, and I also designed some multiple choice and open-ended questions. Some places I also added this, capture the sound clips, as well as providing some online information for them to answer the questions. So the flow of the game is very simple. I have 14 locations, and they are randomly being allocated in the game. When each time when we refresh the game page, it will randomly allocate 9 mission cards from the data pool. And these 9 mission cards, they represent 9 locations. And the mission card can be drawn by the players, freely, whatever they want to do. And their mission is to complete, when a mission is complete, for example, they go to Tai O and they answer all the questions, they click on all the spots and features, and they will actually complete the Tai O mission. So they will collect some sustainable development goals. But the aim of the game is to collect. Let me see. Yeah, let's wait until the other slide. So this is one of the location, the Hong Kong Museum of Medical Sciences, where we want to, teach the students about the dark history of the plaque in Taiping Shan area in Hong Kong, and then we, would go to those places. So when they click into a mission, they will go to the place virtually, and then they will again experience something similar to the ML game of Yim Tin Chai earlier. So they will be provided some basic information about each place with the voiceover, and we will also have some text information about the place, history, and of the places. So this is another screen capture of Panzai, but it's already gone. So the questions will be something like related to the sites. Some are open-end questions, some are multiple choice questions. And the students can click into the different icons to look at the images of the place, as well as answering the questions. And the students have to click on all the icons and complete all the tasks of a mission in order to complete the game. So the pre-allocated SDGs will be collected in each successful mission. So the student would not know how many SDGs they have collected when they complete one mission, but eventually we have set up some pre-assigned SDGs for the students as kind of award. So when the students have collected 5 types of SDGs or 5 SDGs, then they will kind of complete the game. So we will also count, for example, how many missions did they complete, and also the time they spent. So I think the development process is actually very similar to the VR platforms that I introduced earlier. But for this one, the game design is the key because that is also a difficult part because for writing a game flow as well as to test all the functions of the game are working well. Yeah, and for this one, we are still collecting responses from the players from our university. So currently, I think the students kind of quite excited, and they had positive feedback, particularly towards how they feel about the learning of different places in Hong Kong, especially those places that they may have never heard before, or they actually have not been to there, even though they know about that. And for this one, I'm also surprised that the students had a higher interest in visiting these places in the future. After playing the game, comparatively to other other virtual platforms that I introduced earlier. But for this one, the students kind of had feeling that the game, because this one it is not, the game is not put into any of my courses, so it is kind of like testing process as well as experiencing process for the students, so they feel have a weak connection with their learning as well as their like future career development, etc., which is also kind of expected. Yeah, for this one, I think both opportunities and challenges are apparent. For the opportunities, I think the key point is we have um, gamified our field studies, and it's also a good opportunities, especially for the non-local students, to have a glance of some of the places that we may have mentioned during our lectures, and then maybe they would have more interest in going to those places, because some of these locations we will include them in the field trip. Some they will be just having their own self-interest visits if they want. We also kind of started to include SDGs into our teaching platform through the introduction of the game. But that is also reflecting in the challenges that I'm also facing, is that um, the students would only learn about SDGs um, in the background information when they start the game. So we have to think of some way to enhance their knowledge or understanding about SDGs separately, maybe through our teaching or through some other guidelines that we can develop, um, in parallel. Okay, so I think I have talked for about an hour, more than an hour. So I want to use the remaining maybe 30 minutes, or I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 minutes. It depends on your interest and also the time. Um, I have included on the screen the four examples that I just introduced to you. And for the Zoom audience, you can feel free try to use your, I think, smart device or your mobile phone to scan to any of the platform that you want to experience. But in our in-room, audience, you can also do it either if you want to use your mobile phone, or I actually have one Oculus here, and then the Oculus is preset to play with this one, the MR one. But because of the technical issue, you can only experience the MR one with without the game, or without the question and answer function. But you can take a look at what we have developed as a Yim Tin Chai virtual reality platform using Oculus if you are interested. And also for the AR, um, for this one, yeah, you don't have to download the app right now if you don't want to do so. But you can also use the um, mobile phone that I have in hand to play with that. Yeah, play with that AR um, mobile app with the booklets that you have in your hand. Yeah. So I think for the time being, I will just pause here and allow the online audience to play. And then for everyone here, you're welcome to just try anything you want. Or if you really want to try the Oculus, you are welcome to do so. I will put that in the front row here. Thanks. For this one, for this Oculus, there is a control which is looks like a mouse. So what you have to do is you have to wear this Oculus first, and then when you start, basically, I think it will enter automatically into the MR platform, and then you can use this, control. And there's just one button behind it. This is just like a cursor. When you click it, it's just the mouse. It's just like the mouse, and then you can browse, in the image of the screen, and then you can click to the icon or the direction that you want to go. It's just like walking on the island from one point to another. Yeah, you can try it. And then for this one, I can also show you quickly. May I have this booklet here? Yeah. So, can I use that? Then we have to like turn. Okay. No problem. I think each of you, if you are interested, you can try it here. Okay. It's just easy to use. It's just I don't set any password for this working mobile. So when you it's already on this kind of camera. So when you put that, um, yeah, can you see? For example, this one is already showing the layout of the salt pan here. When you move it around, you can actually see different parts of the salt pan. You can try. I think we have very enough time. Yeah. So anyone want to use the Oculus, please welcome to come here as well.
For those online, if you have any question to ask Dr. Chan, because we have already experienced playing some game and okay, go to the Q&A section. Okay. So Dr. Chen just has one or two slides to conclude all his presentation. So if you have any question to ask him, please type it in the chat room so we can gather all the questions and let Dr. Chen answer in the Q&A section. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so thanks for the interest in the game platform. No, in the virtual platforms. I think the last part of today's presentation is to give one slide of concluding remarks and reflections. For this one, I have summarized a few points. I think it's also um, reflective in terms of how we really want or don't want to make use of virtual technology in our teaching and learning. Although we have seen that there has been an increasing trend of utilizing virtual technology in education, the choice between VR, AR, MR, or kind of different ways of enhancing teaching learning experiences um, is a hot trend that we are facing. But I think, at this point, I also want you to think about whether or not it is your need to use these tools. Because if your discipline or your teaching content, your experiences, etc., and maybe particularly important is the needs of your students. Do they really get benefits from make use of these technology? there are pros and cons of making use of these virtual technology in teaching and learning. As I explained, I have opportunities and challenges in each project. Um, Sometimes we can be misled by some of the pros of these virtual technology, but may ignore the cons, some disadvantages. If we do not really understand how these virtual experiences would bring us, then I would say you really have to think carefully. Yeah, sometimes playability will be greater than learning effectiveness. Because if you add something like a virtual tour or like a developed a mobile app for teaching, but those would actually um, make your teaching less interesting or make your teaching less effective, then my word is um, better don't do it. Otherwise, you will be wasting some of your time, resources, but eventually your students may not be really benefit. So the instructor is important in bringing the role of a curriculum designer as well as a learning facilitators together. Um, Out of the four examples that I introduced today, some of them could actually be just like share with the students and then they can do it without any guidance. They can just play the virtual platform like playing a virtual game, like video game, online game by themselves. But the most important thing is the instructor's role in designing what they want the students to make use of the platform and achieve something. Those something will be like their learning objectives or your teaching objectives. Um, Second last point is I think technical issues are always um, complicate the project development because I have already experienced a lot of these kinds of challenges and obstacles, especially when we are dealing with virtual experience. Then there it will be 2D version, there will be 3D version, there will be version in your mobile app, version in desktop, version in tab, or etc. So you have to test all those devices. You have to test all those platforms in different modes, which would be a very, very tedious, time-consuming process. So my my feeling is that if you are not bringing 3D experience like using Oculus or Google Cardboard, you don't have those device or materials with you, then perhaps you would better to focus on the 2D version first. Otherwise, although 3D will be interesting, but 3D will be another level difficult, more difficult to handle, especially if you are developing an app that will be even more difficult. The last reflection is that it's about the measurement of effectiveness. We can do um, pre or post survey or similar kinds of evaluation through different kind of parameters. For example, in terms of the quality of visualizing the environment, knowledge enrichment, stimulate whether the platform really stimulate the interest of the students, the overall quality of learning process, as well as the overall satisfaction and the post-use interest and action. And I think the last point is most important. If your virtual platforms or virtual experience does not actually stimulate the students to go to those places or to learn that particular theme of knowledge by themselves, then that would not be really a good kind of way or approach to stimulate the students' interests. Yeah, I think we really have to think carefully whether or not we need a virtual experience or we actually encourage face-to-face physical experience of the students to a particular sport. Yeah, I think virtual technology plays a role in making your teaching, making the experience more stimulating, as well as making it like the students can actually learn more than just playing the game. Then that would be the important outcome. Yeah. So I think that's all. My acknowledgement to all the projects that I presented today. And thanks very much for your attention.
Okay, now that's the Q&A section. Any question? Actually, I got 3 questions online. So, but first of all, okay. So let me ask the online question first. Um, One question is, are there any differences in the assessment through the VR, AR, and the other ordinary assessment?
Um, Ordinary assessments,
Just
you
like
mean?
written ordinary take-home assignments, that writing term paper or doing some in-class exercise, something like that, without
Okay.
the VR and AR element.
Oh, okay. Um, well, this is an interesting question. In terms of the like I think the assignment that we want the students to do, just take one example of I bring the students to like Yin Chai physically in a group in a class, and then usually I will have a future manual or a guideline, and then I will allow the students to like investigate some of the like a few dimensions or setting up maybe a few questions. Then I want the students to do their own, observation and, sometimes data collection, and then they will do a future report. And if it is put on a virtual one, for example, in the past 2 years, I had to use the virtual platform and take the student, okay, virtually to Yimtin Chai. And then basically I was still using the same set of guideline, but I had to change some of the content in the guideline, especially I understand that they could not do field measurement, they could not do field observation. So what I would allow them to do, for example, is to like capture some of the features that are available on the virtual platform, like cap screen or take some of the image as the evidence that they do it on site. Because on site they will take photos, but now they have to do like screen captures. And I would also allow them, for example, to use some, not all, but a small part of secondary references or secondary information that they can find elsewhere online to support their report writing. But in terms of the really the field work, if physical field work, that's simple because I will take them around, walk around the island, and then explain to them what are available there, what will be the interesting thing that they have to see, they have to observe, and then they will have their free time to do their field work. But if during the virtual field trip, what I have to do is I will just quickly demonstrate what should be the important things that they have to browse when they were on the virtual platform. But then more free time will be given for a virtual one because on the virtual one, they will not have the patience to wait until you go over all the 40 spots, in in your virtual guidance of the field trip. And during the field experience, I would also add some particular like questions or kind of mission for them to complete. To complete, for example, I will pick up, say, several key features that I want them to find out. Okay, those may be not just so straightforward. Go to a place and then immediately they can identify the answer, but they have to like click into some of the photos, read some of the small paragraphs or text about particular features on the platform, and they will have more. They will be able to get the answers of those small questions.
Okay. So the second set of question is related to active and passive learning because in a lot of VR and AR stuff, you have to prescribe or predetermine all the teaching material. So in that case, that means That means students just passively receive all the information you are giving them. So, but how can we make it more active in that case?
This is also a very good question. Um, I think no matter it's a physical field trip or it's a virtual kind of field trip, it's always an instructor's challenge to engage the students. Especially, I think now when we resume face-to-face teaching, we kind of um, often see the students are very reluctant to speak. Yeah, so how to mobilize them? I think it depends on how we want to assign some of the activities during teaching. Okay, for example, during virtual field trip, then I will not just brief them and then I will just um, give them time to explore, but I will allow um, some time for the students to do some kind of group discussion or group task because I think even in the whole class, in class environment, they were they are reluctant to speak. So on the online environment, they were even more reluctant to speak. So what I have to do is like I will break the set up breakout rooms or make the class into smaller groups. The students will be able to more willing to talk when they have a smaller group of students. And then I think another way is how you would also make use of some other online interactive platform. Because in CHK, we have Blackboard, and then we also have some platforms like uReply, or I think I'm more eager to use platforms like Padlet, because the students they were online. So no matter what kind of things you do, they were online. So you have to use online to tackle the online inactive inactiveness of the students. So I will try to use that kind of platform to encourage students to type in something, to input something, and then I will appreciate them. They are actually, try to collect like accumulate the knowledge together. So the students they don't want to talk, but they are okay to type something. So sometimes we have to use this kinds of tactic when we were online. We were, doing a virtual kind of experience.
Okay. So the third set of questions, actually, I find it interesting. So according to this, it is said that students nowadays lack of abstract thinking. I mean, they always think in terms of concrete things. So, uh, will actually using VR and AR, all this kind of visually enhanced teaching material, reduce or enhance their abstract thinking ability?
Sorry, abstract thinking
I mean,
or
not just like a mathematics, something like that. You can think without any picture or images in your mind, but you still have that kind of thinking processes. So, for example, some abstraction. So, in social sciences, we have a lot of very concrete thing. How can we generalize them into some abstract or theorize them, something like that?
well, this is a difficult question. I think it depends on different disciplines. Um, if we are Well, I think if we are looking at some kind of inductive or deductive kind of um, knowledge of theoretical construction, then it depends on how we try to use um, class activities to mobilize the students to do a certain thing that is following a certain kind of thinking. Um, well, I think I'm not quite sure in other parts of our curriculum, like those maybe involving in um, like cartography or geoinformatics sciences, then they may have some kind of calculation that um, need the students to think about how to do like model building or thinking of something that is not really um, real or what you meant, by abstractions of ideas or something like that. But um, at least maybe in my field of tourism um, or tourism and sustainability thinking, maybe use some of the role play kind of techniques or role play kind of approach will allow the students to think of being another role in a particular process that we would like them to 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 like consider or to experience. Sometimes we one of the approaches that I like to use is to divide the whole class into different roles, and then when they are facing one particular case study, then they have to do some kind of background information search, and then maybe if that is also relevant to a virtual experience or a platform, maybe I choose the case of like Chi-Wall revitalization, then they can also make use of the platform as a part of their like information search or part of their imagination to make them be more immersive as being a particular role. For example, villagers, for example, farmers, or for example, some other stakeholders involved in the process of revitalization. I'm not sure if I really, completely understood the question.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Anyway, so any question from on the floor? No? Maybe I have a question. So, because one of the merits of using VR AR is to motivate students to learn more, but can it also motivate students? That means learn something you have already post in the website or in the VR content, something like that. Will they further motivate them to try to find out some additional information by themselves, other than those in the VR or AR materials?
Yeah, certainly. I think that is one of the obstacles that I mentioned earlier. That is, if um, a particular virtual platform does not encourage the students to get really interested in the place and to search more information or to go to the place in person, then we have to do something to encourage them to do so. Maybe this will be through, for example, the requirements of a particular assessment or task. That is, if I draft like a guideline and then I ask the students to go to this platform and to accomplish some task and then to answer some questions, but um, we don't limit the source of information just on that platform, but we can actually provide them with more interesting kind of sources outside the platform. For example, if we set a question that require them to go to another web page or another, um, you know, uh, maybe one or two references, and then ask them to incorporate, for example, a framework from a particular paper, and then to apply it into a particular sites on the virtual platform, then they will have, tend to have more connection between the theoretical part as well as the virtual the site experience that we provide to them.
No more questions. Okay. Today we are happy to have Dr. Chen to share his experience and his project. And one last thing, and then we can conclude the meeting is we have posted the online questionnaire for you to evaluate this workshop. Please help us to get some feedback from you. Okay, so okay, okay, so that's the end of our workshop. Once again, thank you, Dr. Chen.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, feel free to contact me if you want, explore more about this area, and we can also have some collaboration in the future as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thank you.
thank you, thank you, thank you for attending. Okay, thank you.